Speaking of turbulent times, a wave of protests is taking over the world, from the Andes to the Himalayas, from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, and from South America to Asia. There's a wave of anti-government demonstrations. The common thread? All these protests are led by Gen Z. For our Facebook audience, some context first. Gen Z are people born between 1996 and 2010. This is the first generation to grow up with the internet. It was not something that came into their lives. The internet was always there. And Gen Z is leading rebellions worldwide. The most effective was in Nepal. Thousands of young protesters took to the streets. The trigger was a social media ban. But soon the complaints expanded to corruption, to inefficiency, and to political instability. Eventually, the government resigned. Nepal is now led by an interim prime minister. Same story in Madagascar. Protests broke out late in September. The trigger was power and water shortages in the country. Soon it expanded to wider complaints like corruption and bad governance. Earlier this week, their president fled Madagascar. The military is now in power. Over in Peru, the trigger was a pension law. Like elsewhere, it snowballed into a wider rebellion against corruption and rising crime. Last week, Peru's president was impeached, but the protests continue against his successor. Even today, the clashes led to one death. In Morocco, things are more peaceful. The protesters have organized themselves under one banner, Gen Z 212. 212 is Morocco's phone code. They don't have a leader, but they have the same demands: better public services, more spending on education, and more spending on health. Even Southeast Asia has been rocked by these protests. In the Philippines, Gen Z is protesting against corruption. In Indonesia, it's against rising cost of living. All these protests make you wonder, why is Gen Z so angry? There are two main reasons. One, there are genuine concerns to raise. For example, cost of living. In 2022, global inflation was the highest since mid-1990s. If you've just started a job, inflation will eat up most of your income. But not everyone is suffering. The young people are seeing the rich get richer. Since 2020, the world has created $42 trillion in wealth. 2/3 of that was grabbed by the richest 1% of the population. Things like tech and AI have widened this gap. Same with corruption. Look at the findings of a survey from February. It studied corruption perceptions in 180 countries. 47 of them had their lowest score since 2012. If you put all of this together, a worrying picture emerges. Things are getting expensive, the wealth gap is widening, and corruption is rampant. Naturally, young people will push back. Which brings us to the second reason, and that is technology. All these protests have used social media to mobilize, not just TikTok or X, even gaming platforms like Discord. In fact, Nepal's interim prime minister was proposed on Discord. We saw this happen during the Arab Spring as well. You see young people protesting in one country, you see them fight and succeed, and suddenly you feel encouraged to do the same. The protesters in Madagascar have admitted this. They say they were inspired by what happened in Nepal. I know a lot of people are quick to dismiss these protests, but try to understand the trigger behind it. Gen Z's message to governments is very, very clear: deliver or leave. This is a generation brought up on 1-minute reels. They don't wait around for long-term progress. They want it now. Unlike boomers, their idea of democracy is not one vote in 5 years. It is constant vigilance and accountability. Are their methods wrong? Well, in some cases, they have gone overboard. People were killed in Peru, in Nepal, and in Madagascar. But if you want to prevent that, listen to their concerns. Gen Z makes up 25% of the world population today. They are informed, they're angry, and they're ready to fight. Ignore them at your own peril.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.